let's start here. You saw the back and forth with Jared Goff and Bob Wojciechowski from the news. I saw a different side of Goff. Is Goff like that when you're covering him, kind of jovial and a leader? Is that his vibe?
First of all, I appreciate the intro. You date me a little bit because I do feel a little bit old considering all the bad Lions years I've been through before getting this year. But, look, I mean, I think I don't think Goff is normally like that, but what Goff does have is he's got a little quick wit about him, right? He's got a little dry sense of humor, and we did see that come out. And maybe he feels a little more, confident about displaying that because, he's silenced a lot of doubters. He caught a lot of guff when he came here. I was certainly one of the people that, wondered what he was going to be, if he was a bridge quarterback or what the Lions really were going to do with him. And now, 3 years later, here they are, one win from the Super Bowl. So I kind of like that side of him, even though I think he was just having a little fun with Bob.
Dave, outside of their talent on the field, what are the intangibles that make you believe, or Lions fans should believe, that they can win this game on Sunday in Santa Clara?
Well, look, number one is confidence. I mean, this team is not to the point where they're overconfident, cocky, taking the 49ers for granted. But the one thing that Dan Campbell has done is instill in his players, instill in the entire organization, really like a belief that they belong, a belief that they can do anything. And, I think we saw it that first year when they started 10-1 and they were still scrapping and clawing and winning games. And, I know Brad Holmes had told me at the time, he'd be driving to work thinking like, man, just wait, we are going to be there one day. And he'd get there and Dan Campbell would be sort of foaming at the mouth saying the same thing. And I think that, as much as anything, is why the Lions are where they are. I mean, they have a really good roster, but the unwavering belief really they have in Dan Campbell and the people around him that they belong, that's what's carried them to this point.
Dave Burkett, Detroit Free Press. Let's start with the Lions' approach on offense. I think, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but shortening the game, running the football, keeping that explosive 49er offense off the field, that feels like a pretty basic game plan. What do you see from the Lions?
I think you're right because, when you look at how the Lions match up defensively with the 49ers, they're going to have some problems with that. Obviously San Francisco's got a really balanced offense. Christian McCaffrey having a great year in the Lions secondary. They need to blitz to get home sometimes with some of that pressure. And I don't know, Brock Purdy gets the ball out pretty quick. So I don't know how that secondary is going to hold up. So if I'm putting the game plan together, at least, I would probably start there too. I think the 49ers, good statistically against the run, but they've shown a few cracks. And when you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have David Montgomery, you have the line that the Lions have, I think that's where it all starts when it comes to the Lions offense this week. So I don't think that means they will, shy away from throwing the ball downfield, but maybe be smart about doing that and, make sure that they, this isn't one of those games where there's 12 possessions and it gets out of hand and they're playing catch up. They want to be the team that takes the early lead, and I think they can do that by running the football.
Dave, Detroit was fourth against the run this year in the National Football League. Christian McCaffrey's over-under this game is at 86.5. Is this a number you would look towards going under or over, and can the Lions really genuinely slow him down in this one?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Lions haven't allowed 70 yards to a running back this year, I don't think. So, I guess I might lean under on that. I think Christian McCaffrey, look, if you like the 49ers to win, I think you're probably thinking McCaffrey's going to have a big game because that's what he does, right? But I like the Lions' run defense. They did show a few cracks last week. They allowed about 6 yards per carry last week against the Bucs. But they haven't allowed 100 yards since, early December. They've done a really good job keeping running backs in check. It's been some of the running quarterbacks that have hurt them. So I like this to be a close game. I think the Lions can keep McCaffrey under that number.
Dave, the Lions are catching 7.5. Based on what you just said, does that number feel a bit disrespectful to the Detroit Lions?
It felt heavy to me when it came out, and I actually said something to somebody in the locker room the other day, like, man, I was surprised by that. And they were like, you're telling me, So I think it's definitely something that, I don't know if that's bulletin board material, right? But I think it definitely is something that caught some people's eye in Detroit. Like, they feel like they are an evenly matched team with the 49ers. And this is going to be one of those games that, whoever has the ball last gets to sort of paint the picture of what the outcome is.
Dave, the Lions had the most fourth down attempts in the National Football League this year. Could that prove beneficial for their offense, the ability to take certain risks, say across the 40-yard line in plus territory?
Yeah, I think the one point with that is that it's not going to change in this game. I don't think Dan Campbell is the type that's all of a sudden going to stray from what got him there. I mean, since he walked in the door in Allen Park, he's believed that, a set of downs is 4 downs, it's not 3. And if there's an opportunity to, that's why they've been so successful sometimes, right? A 3rd and 8, they don't need to pick up 8. Maybe they need to pick up 4 to go for it on 4th down, just knowing the personnel they have and Dan's appetite for risk. So I do think you're right that, especially in a game like this where maximizing possessions is important, whether it's going for it on 4th down, maybe it's throwing a fake punt in. We've certainly seen that from Dan before. Those are the risks I think he's willing to take in a big game like this.
Dave Burkett, he's on the Lions beat for the Detroit Free Press. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm 45. You might be a little bit younger than me, but I just can't believe we're having this conversation, and the conversation starts with Dan Campbell. I mean, I'm serious. Like, my family's freaking out in Michigan. Dan Campbell could run for governor and win in a landslide. Help us understand nationally the impact of Campbell.
No, you're right, man. It is. Look, it's one of those things. I've told a couple people of late, like, everyone thought they were going to be a good team, right? I mean, you thought they were going to win the division this year, but to be here 60 good minutes of football away from the Super Bowl, I don't know that anyone realized just how close it was because it's been so long. Like the Lions they haven't been very good. And this year it's a combination of the right coach, the right roster, the right opportunity. This, there's no Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and that was the case for 3 decades. So all those things sort of came together. And then when you put, Dan at the top of it, and again, sort of, he's the face of this rebuild and the belief that people have in him, like the city it's on fire here. I mean, people have they've changed the lights in front of their house to blue lights for Lions. I was looking on Delta, I'm going to the Super Bowl regardless, but just to, book a flight home, I booked a one-way, just kind of waiting to see what the Lions were going to do. It's $2,000. It's more than $2,000 to come home that day after the game because so many people have booked refundable tickets thinking the Lions are going to get there, wanting to be there for the first time the Lions get there. So, I know they're not favorite, but you try to tell anyone here in Detroit they're not going to win. I think they'd probably, bite your kneecap off like Dan would tell them to do.
So, Dave, you mentioned getting out of Metro is going to be a problem. Should people give us a prediction? Should they start getting online right now to reserve their flights for Las Vegas? Tell us what's going to happen on Sunday.
Look, I filed my prediction earlier today, and I think the 49ers are the better team. They've got this Pro Bowl-laden roster. I mean, all kinds of weapons. I'm not exactly sure how the Lions are going to keep the offense in check, but man, I've seen enough movies to know that these things are based on real life stories, and this just has a storybook feel to the season. So I don't think the Lions are that far off roster wise. I think they're going to win, man. I think it's a close game. There's something about the way this season has gone and the way these guys here are conducting themselves that they want this opportunity, and when they get it, I think they're ready for it. So I picked the Lions by 1 in my prediction, 28-27. It's not going to surprise me either way what happens, but, I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for a good story, but I think the Lions are going to the Super Bowl.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.